on the last 5 days, you would have gone through on the different areas of fuel technologies and what are the different challenges are there, and what kind of technology, what kind of research can be carried out, and what kind of activities we can carry out in this towards enhancing the adoption of hydrogen technologies for sustainable mobility. So in this session, I would just try to focus on the key aspects on the policy and economic aspects. This is not much more of a technical aspect. This is more on the policy background, where I will try to touching on. So you might have more on the technical aspect. So I will try to focus on why this push is there on the globally towards this sustainable future. So you would have heard of many. We are seeing many journals on sustainability, where we can see many research articles coming out for the key term sustainability, sustainable development goals. So why I would just like to give a brief overview on what is the background and what is the push behind this towards the sustainable future. So the first initiative, which was happened some years back, if you have observed it, the move for reduction of greenhouse gases or the improvement on the use of sustainable technologies where has evolved, and the adoption of renewable technologies and the adoption of cleaner technologies has been on the rise, especially after the, from the start of this century. So the main global pushing factors across all the countries going towards the same target of achieving a sustainable future started with some global agreements which happened at the UN level, where every country started to understand and realize the importance of the rising climate change and the need for every country to have a clean technology. So this started with the predominantly with the what we call it as the Paris Agreement. So this Paris Agreement was signed in 2016, which was a 15 when and it came to force by 2016. So the main aim of this agreement was, it was a multilateral agreement which was an legally binding international treaty on climate change. So which was part of the UN climate change conferences. So recently also you could have heard about COP29 conference, which was held, and you could have seen the news that India was expressing its concern over the developing nations not acting properly towards the climate change. So we'd have seen more of that in the news. So this was This was some of the earlier conferences which was held in 2015, the 21st edition of the Conference of Parties on the, or the you can call it as the UN Conference on Climate Change. And in that conference, it was globally realized that there is a huge push for having for climate change and the impact that not just the developed countries or as well as the developing countries were facing due to this climate change. With that uh, push, it was decided to have an overarching goal of through the Paris Agreement that there is a need to increase the global temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. So pre-industrial levels, so that the level of temperature varies from one country to another. So this was considered to be a significant landmark achievement, because at the UN level, multiple countries, around more than 190 countries, have come together forward to understand and agree that there is a need for a climate change, and that there needs to be an adoption of technologies where the climate change needs to be addressed. So this was one of the main steps, and since 2020 these countries have been submitting their national climate action plans, also known as the nationally determined contributions. So each country at the global level, they try to present on what actions they are planning to take to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and to trying to reach the vision envisaged in the Paris Agreement, where they are trying to reach the 2 degree Celsius above the pre-industrial level. And also what are the actions they are taking to have a resilient structure to adapt to the impacts of the climate change. And also the countries are submitting their plans to have a long-term low greenhouse gas emission development strategies, shortly called as LTEs. LEDs. So these things are developed at the national level. So it is not just India is pushing for that. Each and every member state across the UN, whoever is member of the UN state and a member of the Paris Agreement, they are trying to they used to publish this plan. So every country tries to showcase what they have done and what they are going to do to for the betterment of the future, sustainable future, with the when what are the initiatives they are taking towards the climate change. So this was one of the pushing factor where every country is trying to address the climate change, and they are taking several initiatives to have a sustainable future. And the other key important thing which was is the UN agenda for the sustainable development goals. So this at the clock of the millennium, if you see at the 2000, the UN came up with the Millennium Development Goals, and whereas which was predominantly focused on eradicating the poverty and to have a better society was the main push of the Millennium Development Goals. But later, the during the over the in the early 2000s, they realized that it is not just the eradication of poverty, the climate change also needs to be addressed. So the Millennium Development Goals get transformed into a Sustainable Development Goals, and they envisaged an agenda for 2030 where we generally call it as a sustainable development goals. We can see several articles mentioning on the importance of sustainable development goals, SDG 7, SDG 17. This tries to work on that. This tries to address the SDG 7, SDG 17. You can see multiple articles on that. So this main agenda behind this sustainable development goals was to have a plan which where the people are involved, where the planet is involved, prosperity, peace, and partnership. So this agenda had 17 sustainable development goals and 169 targets. And this was carried out by the UN Department of Economics and Social Affairs for Sustainable Development. So here in this agenda, there were 17 different categories of goals. And these are the key dimensions for they envisaged for a sustainable development was it involved the social factors, it involved the economic factors, as well as it involved the environmental factors. The 17 goals were built across all the issues, all the social issues, what are the economical issues people face, and for a sustainable future, what kind of economical changes needs to be made at least. So considering the all these three pillars, mainly on the social, environmental, economic, the 17 goals were designed. As I told you earlier, it had a 17 goals and 169 targets. So each goal had certain targets that needs to be achieved by 2030. So this include different several areas which touched on that should be no poverty, where the focus was main focus, as I said earlier, the Millennium Development Goals were focused mainly on eradication of poverty, but the Millennium Development Goals were refined with the climate change factors, and it was having to have a sustainable future. It also included several other parameters. So it also had the visions which was envisaged in the Millennium Development Goals. So no poverty was one of them, and zero hunger, which also towards that, as well as the goals include goals on having a good health and well-being, as well as it was focused on having a quality education and gender equality, where all the genders are considered equal in all the things, and which was towards having an inclusive society, and also to have clean water and sanitation, ensure that all the basic amenities are met for all the peoples across the globe. And also it touched on having an affordable and clean energy, which is the SDG 7, which is more relevant to today's topic, as well as it also ensured that people get a decent work and they're having an sustainable economy to have their growth, as well as the industry and innovation infrastructure must be made in a sustainable, not just for the sake of profit, but it should be made in a sustainable manner, and also the infrastructure must have the resilient infrastructure. So I'll tell at the later stage why I have stressed on the resilient infrastructure. And also it wanted to reduce the inequalities, where we see the division of there are differences between the rich and the poor, the digital divide, which you see some having access to technology, some don't have access to technology, some have more access, some have limited access, some have no access. So and developing countries have more access, whereas the developed countries or underdeveloping countries are having limited access to the technology. So they wanted to reduce the inequalities in the technologies, and also they plan to develop sustainable cities and communities where the cities as well as the societies are having more sustainable life, which are safe as well as sustainable, and also responsible consumption production. So the goals also try to have a focus on having a sustainable consumption and production patterns, and also the climate action. So the climate was one of the key factors. So a separate goal point as a goal was envisaged under the agenda. So to address the rising climate change and its impact, and also it was not just it also include the life below water as well as the life on land, and also it also, as every UN goal tries to have focus on the peace, justice, it also touched on that. And also it any successful implementation of any program depends on an active participation of all the stakeholders, and then had to have an inclusive approach. So this goal was also having the partnership for the goals, where they try to have a global partnership where all the stakeholders are involved in an active manner, and all having equal contribution towards the achievement of the sustainable development. So this why this SDG is relevant to this topic today means the SDG was a universal response. It was not just one country pushing for this, having this agenda. More than 190 countries joined together, and they agreed on a common agenda, and they agreed to have a common goal. So this factor in shaping the initiatives which each country took towards developing their policies, developing their economical structure, developing their technologies, to ensure that all of them are addressing towards these goals. So this policy had the balance between the environment, it had the balance of the society, it also considered the economical issues of people, and also from environmental change perspective, it had the targets which trying to address the to have the natural resources preserved, and also it also had the targets to have eradicate poverty without along with promoting development. So the main goal, which is related to today's session, is the goal number 7, where it tries to have an affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. So we are pushing towards having the a reliable structure, a sustainable computing, sustainable mobility we are having. And the technology we are using here is also by using an electric EV technology, which we consider to be an affordable or a reliable technology, which can be used for a alternative, as a mode of alternative transport. So if you look at that, if the UN reports which were released in the 2023, it sees that still there is a huge demand for electricity, and there is a huge efforts that needs to be scaled up for a sustainable energy, as well as there is a huge need for pushing up the efforts that are needs to be done to have the renewable energy generation, and how they are used effectively. And it is not that just on that efficiency, it also touches on um, transport section as well, where the transport is being dependent on these energies as well. So where we are trying to move from the dependency on fossil fuels towards a clean energy, where they try to reduce the impact of these factors on the climate. So if you look at the goal 7 in detail, there are the three main goals are there. The first one is to ensure an universal access to Earth's an affordable, reliable, and modern energy service. It needs to have an access. So not just the developed countries are having access to such services. The underdeveloped as well as developing nations also need to have such access. And this target was also ensured that the indicator was that the proportion of population will be having the access to electricity. The amount of electricity that's being generated must be proportional to the population you're having, and also it should be having the primary reliance must be shifted on the clean fuels and not just on the fossil fuels. So that shift was towards cleaner technology. And also, if you look at the second target, which is on where is the increasing the substantial share of renewable energy in the global energy mix. So the lines of energy must be more towards on the renewable energy, and the share of renewable energy must be increased in the total energy consumption. So it is the reducing the reliance on fossil fuels as well as and to increase the dependence on the renewable energy, as well as it also try to have the target on the doubling the global rate for improvement in energy efficiencies. So it also touches on the how the energy is efficiently used. So you might be seeing buildings using are now having the guidelines to have better energy efficiency, and wherever you can see that there is a more shift on using the energy in an efficient manner. So this is also one of the targets achieved. And in addition to that, it also had to have the enhance the international cooperation where it tries to facilitate the research on clean energy, and also which includes the renewable energy, and also to promote the investment in the energy infrastructure as predominantly focusing on the clean energy. So it pushes the global cooperation, and it also pushes the need to have the modern technologies as well as the countries to enhance their capabilities with more financial funds towards the modern sustainable technologies. So if you look at here the for towards a sustainable transport system, we need it's the sustainability of transport depends upon the social aspect. It also depends upon the technology aspect, as well as it depends on the personal aspect. So there has been more towards, if you can see has been push across the globe towards adoption of cycles, and you can see there is a global push that people to reduce their use their private cars and use the public transport. And there has been push across many globals where they have rules they have been made that if there are more people they can go for sharing, and instead of you reducing the use of personal transport and to increase the adoption of private public transports. So coming to the main thing where the greenhouse gases contributions are made by the global countries. So if you consider the global greenhouse gas emission, and if you compare the greenhouse emission of our country, considering the humongous population we have, and comparing the population of countries like China or the United States as well as the European Union, the kind of population we have is a very huge level. We are on almost on equal to China, but still, if you look at the greenhouse gas emissions of India compared to other developed countries, the kind of greenhouse gas emission is very less compared to the volume, the population which we are having. Still, we are having a very less greenhouse gas emission. But still, India is having, though being home to 17% of world's population, the cumulative emission of India, where India is contributing towards the greenhouse gas emission of the world, it is very less compared to other countries where the greenhouse gas emission is very high. Despite being that we are emitting very less percentage of greenhouse gas emission, India has been been responsible, and India has taken several initiatives towards the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So India, in the UN conference convention on climate change, India has announced that it is trying to achieve the target of net zero by 2070. And also India has implemented its low carbon development strategy. So this strategy is not just based on, it's based on the principle of equity and climate justice, and also the principle of common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. That it has been on the principle that where it is not that all the countries will be having the same level of initiatives, but the countries which are emitting more should be taking more responsibility. India has always pushed that, or each the developed countries must be having more, they must take more efforts, and they must be taking that in a responsible manner. So India has taken this policy in a position that, so that not that underdeveloped or developing countries are being forced to take some measures which will impact their economy. So India has always tried to maintain the balance between protecting this economy as well as being a responsible country towards the protection of climate change. So if you want to have the support, the policy, looking at the policy perspective, for a clean energy transmission, we need to have the mandates. The policies must be in place for cost effective technologies, and that which also provides the support for the economy. So and also there must be subsidies for these technologies, and also we need to have a long term infrastructure planning, as well as we need to have the scale. It is not that all these technologies we cannot be relying on the imports. We need to have our self indigenous production. So we need to scale up the domestic manufacturing, and also we must have a proper planning, so that it is not just we set the target. We need to have a proper envisaged roadmap towards achieving the transition. So this policy ecosystem for this clean energy transition, so if you map that to India's long-term low carbon development strategy, if you look at that, there are seven key transitions which India has envisaged. One is on the low carbon development of electricity systems, so which are considered development. So we always try to have a balance between the development and adoption of technology as well as its impact on the environment. So we try to always have the balance between the development and the development of the electricity systems, low carbon electricity systems. And also with the other main key strategy is to have an integrated and inclusive, efficient and inclusive transport system. So we are trying to move towards a transport system where the low carbon, with low carbon, where it is integrated as well as it's efficient and inclusive transport. It's not just on a particular type of transport. We are trying to focus on all the different kinds of transport system. And also, if you are and whatever towards the sustainable urbanization, where whatever buildings are being built, whatever designs are being done, whatever energy systems are being made, and whatever materials are being made, we try to focus on that they are contributing towards the low carbon strategy. And we're also looking for the industrial system. So we also want to have a growth. The growth depends upon more energy. We need to have more energy, but still we try to have an efficient, innovative and low emission industrial system. So where we try to have where we try to achieve both the goals of development as well as low carbon emission. And also we are trying to move towards the development of solutions which can be used for the removal of carbon dioxide and other solutions. And also we are trying to enhance the forest and vegetation cover, so that we are able to have the natural ways of reduction of carbon dioxide. And also the strategy pushes towards having the economical and financial needs for developing the infrastructure for low carbon development. And the other main thing which India pushes is or the energy independence. So the economic policy as well as the policy aspects which we are seeing in this one is India is largely importing this energy resources from different. So if we are moving towards the renewable system, and we are having an indigenous systems which are resilient and which are providing clean technologies, India is aiming to be in energy independent by 2047, where we try to reduce the imports of oil and coal technologies, and also we try to reduce the energy consumption related to carbon dioxide emissions. So coming, if you look at the energy consuming sectors, the sectors which are consuming the energy are the power sector, transport sector, and the industry, which are contributing to more than 80% of the energy consumption and the carbon dioxide emissions. So the transition in the transport sector is very is a very key factor where India is trying to become an energy independent country. So if there is a transition towards an electric vehicles, it is envisaged that we can reduce the crude oil imports by over 90%, and the green hydrogen based electrified industrial production also is envisaged that it could reduce the industrial coal imports by 95%. So this is one of the key factors that is also motivating India towards the transition, where we try to move towards the adoption of EV vehicles and other sustainable transport mechanisms, so that the imports are reduced and India can become more reliant on its own instead of depending upon the imports. So if the shift the modern transition, so to envisage to achieve that, if you are achieving that self reliant and energy independent India, so the we by 2047 will be having a shift, higher shift towards the electric transportation, and it will create, we it is envisaged that it can be saving around 2.5 trillion dollars in the consumer savings by 2047. And also, if you are moving towards such an electrified transport, instead of trying on other fuels, if you are moving towards an electrification and green hydrogen production, there is also another challenge which will be facing is the demand of electricity. The demand of electricity is also will be increasing almost fivefolds compared to the present demands by 2050. And also we can see that there is a huge scale up. We'll be seeing the infrastructure for renewable energy being increased uh, every year, and there will be a huge ramp in the uh, creation of renewable energy infrastructure. So we need to create the infrastructure that can scale up the production of renewable energy. And also, it requires a huge amount of funds being invested. So since we are having a transition of technology, and since we want to have the proper infrastructure, we need to have the proper technology in place, and there is a shift in technology of all the transports. So we need to, there is a huge financial funds being involved in that. So that it requires a huge investment that India needs to make towards this technology compared to the normal level of investment. So this is the way which India looks forward towards this adoption of this technology. So to achieve this, India has taken several policy initiatives. So one at the global front also India has taken, as well as at the domestic level India has taken. So CDRI is one of the international level initiative taken by India, where currently there are 40 members, where it aims to promote the rapid development of resilient infrastructure to respond to the SDG goals, that is the sustainable development goals. So it has three priorities. One thing is on the technical support and capacity building, so which includes the recovery support and what kind of innovation and capacity building assistance countries can do to promote the faster achievement of the sustainable development goals. And also the other thing is on the research and knowledge management, where they or people come forward towards a collaborative research and come towards on the development of infrastructure and contribute towards the sharing of knowledge towards establishing resilient sectors. And also on advocacy and partnerships, which includes that they create more awareness on the project, on these initiatives, where they organize global events and initiatives, and have help agencies to promote them, as well as to disseminate the knowledge of the different products that can be used to achieve this sustainable development goals. So this is CDI is an initiative of India, where currently there are 40 members of the United Nations are members of this initiative. And also next another key initiative is the International Solar Alliance, where International Solar Alliance is also an intergovernmental organization which is developed towards the adoption of solar power towards a carbon neutral future. So it was initially started between India and France to combat the climate change and to have increase the adoption of solar energy solutions. So there are currently 100 plus nations are signatories of this initiative, and 90 plus countries have already ratified to become full member. So the main mission of this initiative is to unlock $1 trillion economy in solar investments by 2030, while reducing the technology and financing cost. So this is another global initiative which India has taken the lead towards the adoption of to reduce the carbon emissions. And if you look at the International Solar Alliance, it is a it supports the member countries across various sectors. So it provides the analytics and advocacy. It does the advocacy for the of creating the awareness and to create policies, and also it aids governments in creating policies. So they some developed countries would have developed the policies which would have helped them to facilitate faster adoption of solar technologies. So they'll be helping other countries to develop policies which could be used from their learning experience. They'll be sharing their experience. Based on that experience, the other member countries can try to develop their own policies, which will be helping to help their public to adapt the solar technology at a faster pace. And also they'll be trying to sharing information on the new business models for solar projects. And also they'll be enhancing the financial access by reducing by providing risk management services, and also how helping them to find the investments, private investments in this technology. And also they help the research community as well as the professionals with the data sets, and also they provide them with training to the professionals, people who are involved in the research, as well as the policymakers, to enhance their skills and to provide them more access to different data, which will be helping them to improve the knowledge later to them for improving the adoption of solar technology. And if you look at the national level initiatives, we can see the National Clean Air Program, which was launched in 2019 by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So it was established to improve the air quality in 131 cities, and also it has created a portal for monitoring the implementation. So you can see, like, if you can check like AQI in your city, you can see now many portals are there which can show you the real time AQI values, that air quality index values. So these are several initiatives which the government has taken to ensure that you are having a clean air, and which also shows that how much amount of carbon dioxide is present in the air, how much amount of pollutants are there. It helps you to find the values in near real time. And also, another initiative is the SETAT initiative, which is the Sustainable Alternative Towards Affordable Transport initiative, where they try to set up the compressed biogas production plants and make them available for automobile fuels. And as you might be aware, we have transitioned from the BS4 to BS6 norms for fuel and vehicles from 1st April 2020. And also our government is providing subsidy for e-vehicles for faster adoption and manufacture of electrical vehicles in India. And another key initiative is the National Green Hydrogen Mission. So where the objective of the mission is to make India the global hub for production and export of green hydrogen and its derivatives. And also it is envisaged towards the India becoming an inspiration for global clean energy transition. And also it tries to have decarbonization of the move towards more amount of decarbonization and reducing the imports on fossil fuels, and making India to be a market leader in green hydrogen. So with this vision, the National Green Hydrogen Mission is also being established by India. And as you might be aware, this fuel cell electric vehicles which are hydrogen based are emitting, which will be having only the water coming from the tailpipe, and also it runs quiet, and it has the ability to be scaled up quickly. So the green hydrogen mission also tries to bring in that it has the strategic interventions for green hydrogen transition, shortly called as a site. So under this project, under this intervention, there are the incentive mechanisms are proposed with an outlay of around 17,490 crores, and out of that, this 88 percentage of the funds which are allocated under the National Greenhouse Mission is provided for as incentives for manufacturing of electrolyzers and as incentives for production of green hydrogen. And the key, if you look at the pilot projects which are being launched under this scheme, it includes the 405 for 55 crore for low carbon steel projects and 496 crores for mobility pilot projects and 150 crores for shipping pilot projects. And also this mission tries to focus on decentralized energy applications, hydrogen production from biomass and hydrogen storage technologies, etc. And this scheme also envisages that by 2030 around 1200 fuel cell electric vehicle heavy duty trucks will be running on Indian roads. So this is the push with which India this mission is trying to enhance the adoption of fuel cell electric vehicles. And if you look at the major key outcomes of this will be there is a huge increase of green hydrogen, and also it tries to create more jobs, and also use of renewable energy for green hydrogen production, as well as the installation of electrolyzers. And also it tries to bring more investment into this domain, where with almost 8 lakh crores investment. So these are the outcomes which are being envisaged by the National Green Hydrogen Mission. And this hydrogen, in addition to that, if you look at this, for this adoption of hydrogen, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy Resources also have come up with the hydrogen different for guidelines and schemes that can be used for the green hydrogen transition. So if you look at the website, you can see on what are the schemes are there, what kind of research proposals are there, what kind of for proposal which they'll be providing the grants. So there are many call for proposals where they try to enhance the adoption of green hydrogen, and how these technologies can be adopted. There is a huge push of funds and grants for researchers who are working in this area towards developing technologies for sustainable transport. And also India is pushing towards the scaling the hydrogen power transport in India, where it is expected that the World Economic Forum has established that is estimating that the cost of setting up the hydrogen refueling station is very high compared to the electric vehicle charging station. And also the cost of producing a green hydrogen is very high compared to the conventional fuels. So these are the major challenges of which are being faced, and which makes the economic aspect of setting up these stations becoming more challenging. And also this policy frameworks also requires a huge amount of public private partnership, and also the technology wise this needs to be more evolved. It requires more maturity, and also this increases the economic aspects. There's where not just the policy aspect, it also touches the economic aspect, where huge amount of funds are being required to take the technology forward. So if you look at the fuel electric vehicles, they have many advantages as well as there is a challenges. If you look at their challenges, the challenges include they have zero emissions. They are having better refueling times. However, the initial cost and the infrastructure and the availability of hydrogen and the safety measures for for storing them are the key challenges, which increases the economy revolving around that, and it requires a huge amount of financial investment that needs to be done towards the adoption of these technology. So even if you look at the developed countries which are there, the adoption of this fuels electric vehicles seems to be very less. The number of stations are there even in the developed countries, which are in recent years has been very minimum. And although the fuels electric vehicles and battery vehicles offer many advantages, the adoption of these technologies has many challenges. So however, the government has taken, though we are in the very early stages of the adoption of this technology, the government has taken several initiatives. The Ministry of Road Transport and Highways has taken these several initiatives, in the year 2022, the Toyota Kirloskar Motor Private Limited, along with ICAT, initiate the pilot project to evaluate the FCEV adoption on Indian roads and climatic conditions. And this project was mainly launched with a motto to create awareness about the FCEV technology and how it can be helpful in taking India forward. Forward, and also there are many players out there who are trying to develop the FCEVs vehicles, especially for India. They are working in collaboration with different players, so there are different players are involved in that. The government is also working closely with them to take this forward. You can see here that the Honorable Minister of Road and Transport also visited the Parliament House by a fuel cell electric vehicle to show that there is the future needs to adopt this technology. It shows that it highlights that India is moving towards the adoption of this technology. There is a huge push towards that, and also the government is taking several initiatives to showcase that there is a need to shift towards this sustainable transport technology. And also they try to create more awareness about this technology. So not just providing funds, the government is also pushing towards creating awareness of regarding the technology. So yeah, and also there are several research projects initiated by the government. So the government has set up the at the NTPC Vidyut Vyapar Nigam has set up a pilot project and has been trying on the operation of 5 hydrogen fuel cell electric buses between Delhi and Leh. And if you look at the NVVN has also been developing the hydrogen generation dispensation facility with the True Zero Emission Initiative, and also it has been done with the help of the MNRE, which is the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. And also the Tata Motors have recently won a tender to provide 15 hydrogen FC buses. So, and with this vision, the government has also come up with the roadmap of e-mobility R&D for research and development. I encourage you to have a look into it. This is released by the principal scientific advisor to the government of India. You can see that on the website psa.gov.in, where they have provided a roadmap for this adoption. So this roadmap talks about the vehicle R&D and how the India has what initiatives have been taken, and also what kind of things we need to do, what kind of areas of research needs to be focused on. So what are the thrust areas of research, especially in this fuel cell research? What kind of things needs to be developed? So it will be giving you a very good idea of what are the areas of research you can take up and what kind of solutions you can develop. And so these solutions will be attracting grants, and these solutions can be taken up to receiving patents, which can be commercially viable and which can be very productive for you as a researcher. You can try to look into the document as well. And it always showcases the what are the R&Ds, how what is the stages of advanced R&D, where we have developed the hydrogen fuel cell based already being developed by KPIT CSIR. And also we have there are some hydrogen fuel cell vehicles which are buses which have been tested, where a single hydrogen fuel allows the bus to travel up to 400 kilometers. And also we have showcased our ability to adoption of this hydrogen fuel cell by conducting an interbus city concept during the India's G20, where it was showcased at the fourth energy transitions working group, which was held as a part of the G20 meetings. And also Tata Motors has received a roadworthiness certificate for hydrogen powered buses. So these are the recent developments which are taking place in the adoption of fuel cell. And India has been one of the being ranking 22nd globally for the hydrogen protection, and also it makes hydrogen a comparatively accessible fuel for India. So there are different kinds of hydrogen which are there, which are available there. So India has been being with this high amount of hydrogen resource being available for India. India is trying to have a faster adoption and a better adoption, and in the opportunities for India to adopt this technology is very much higher, and it will be a very feasible future for India. So, however, this adoption has several challenges in India. One is the lack of infrastructure, where currently we are facing, where there is a lack of sufficient reliable network for the refueling stations. That is one of the key challenges which we are facing. And at the policy level, if you see, we need to have a clear and consistent policy framework for this. which will be helping to avoid the uncertainty and confusion for the. We need to have a proper standards. We need to have the proper policies for development of them. So already the government is working on that. Soon we'll be getting that over. And the cost of them also is becoming is very high. So we need to make the prices very affordable so that because the competition which is being faced by this fuel cell cars compared to the electrical vehicles and other conventional vehicles are very high, because they are affordable to almost everyone, whereas the cost of these vehicles are very costlier. And also there is a very less awareness among people about this technology, and still they are not aware of the benefits and futures of these cars. So this may, and also there is a huge thing on about the safety of this cars. So what will happen if an accident happens, whether there are provisions there in place to protect the lives of the individual. That is also there in this case. And also the cabin space is also one of the key concern which is being expressed by in the adoption of this technology, where the cabin space will also be getting reduced. And as I said earlier, safety issue is one of the main issue which is critical towards the adoption of this technology. So whether the stations, the generation stations, if we want to adopt this technology, we need to have more stations which are generating the power, and the location of these stations, whether is also a critical matter of concern. So these are many challenges which are there in the enhancing the adoption. So what we need to have at the policy level, what we need to have is we need to have a policy and fuel cells which are India centric, cost efficient as well as cost effective. So and also we need to have a sustainable and consistent supply chain. So and the components whatever is being manufactured must be able to have the reduced cost, and also we need to have a develop the infrastructure for for these fuel electric vehicles. So developing this infrastructure is very cost consuming. So we need to focus on developing cost effective mechanisms which will help to develop the infrastructures for the manufacturing of these FCVs, as well as we need to have a sustainable investment in R&D. And also we need to look forward for international collaborations which help us to make our own indigenous cars, so that we'll be having more reliability and which will be making the cost more affordable. As well as we are looking forward for global supply chains, as well as we need to have more involvement of private players, which also increases the public private partnership and also increases the capacity of our own country in developing these technologies. So this is the way forward. We look forward for that. And also from a research and development perspective, we need to have the technology which can be made. We need to work on R&D which works on developing efficient and scalable production methods, and efficient. I think all these things would have gone through the previous sessions, hopefully. So where we need to develop durable and efficient proton exchange membranes, and we need to develop techniques that enhance the fuel cell efficiency, longevity, as well as in reliability, and in development of efficient membrane electrode assemblies, as well as we need to have innovative stock configurations. So, and also we need to work on the safety of the high pressure cylinders, all these things. And we need to develop the electrolyte materials which has the ability to meet the performance demands, durability criteria, as well as the economic feasibility. So all these things are some of the key areas of R&D which we need to focus on and towards achieving the design. So these are FCV. So if you look at the EV charging station in India, so fuel cell research is there, but however, looking at the current scenario of EV charging stations, where as we are trying to integrate the FCEV into EV, we need to know what is the status of EV charging station in India. So the EV charging station in India, if you look at the stations are predominantly concentrated in the urban centers. If you look at it, will be on the Delhi, Bombay, on the metropolitan cities only. We are having we are having this EV charging stations, and these EV charging stations, even in the metropolitan cities, like the availability is concentrated only towards us in the inside the city, and even the city peripherals. The availability is very sparse. So in 2020 we have seen that the EV sales are shooting up, but we are having impressive EV charging stations, but still, if you look at the spread of this EV charging station in India, the EV charging stations in India are predominantly located only towards the cities, and the spread has not been towards the rural areas. So this is one of the main concern where we need to look into it. So to promote this EV station also, we have the government has taken several schemes towards the adoption of EV. So the government, one of the key important scheme is the FAME India scheme, which is looking on the fast adoption manufacturing of hybrid and electrical vehicles, which is where the government is providing subsidies under the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan. So the first phase has been over there. Under the second phase, also the government has been trying to install new charging stations because as the adoption is of vehicle technology, vehicles are increasing. Then we need to have sustainable charging stations which support the growth of EV adoption. So the government has been trying to set up more EV charging stations across the country, and also to facilitate long distance travel. So there are several. The Ministry of Power has also identified 100 national highways for this initiative, so that charging stations are also available there in the highway, so that the EV cars can be used for long distance travels, and there is a the charging station does not become one of the factor in determining the use of adoption of EV. And also this FAME India scheme also encourages the manufacturers and also to provide more electric vehicles nationwide. So this vision, this scheme envisaged tries to target at least convert 30% of the total transportation to vehicle EVs by 2030. And also the scheme mainly targets on establishing the EV infrastructure, and also to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels, and also tries to reduce the issue which are vehicular emissions, and also to promote sustainable transport solutions. So there's the main motto means towards the development of the EV charging infrastructure and adoption of EV technologies. And also the scheme provides support to the R&D activities which are being carried out towards this adoption. You can see some still in some metropolitan cities. You can see the electric vehicles will have be carrying the logo of FAME. So the scheme, the main advantage of this scheme is that it incentivizes not only just the consumers, it also helps the manufacturers to adopt to the EV and hybrid vehicles. So they provide subsidies for reducing the car cost so that we can have a faster adoption. And also the it supports the manufacturers for the domestic production stuff to reduce the imports and to have indigenous solutions, and to have for with a futuristic goal. The government has been taking several initiatives to support the manufacturers to develop the domestic production of EV vehicles. And also there are several campaigns are there being carried out which highlights which tries to educate the users about what are the benefits of adopting to UV, and what are the schemes are there to offer, and what kind of subsidies they can be receiving uh, for buying the electric vehicles. All these things campaigns are being carried out through under the scheme. And another scheme which is being targeted used by the government is the electric mobility promotion scheme, which was extended as a part till of as a for the phase three of FAME. And this was established with an outlay of 500 crores for a period of 4 months. It was that scheme aims to increase the fast adoption of two-wheeler electric vehicles as well as three-wheeler electric vehicles, and also towards to which also tries to provide an impetus to the green mobility. So this all scheme also tries to promote the EV manufacturing in the country, where they are trying to do the phased manufacturing program to encourage the domestic manufacturing and strengthening the EV supply chain. And another scheme is the PM E-Drive scheme, which also tries to enhance the innovative vehicle enhancement, where it tries to increase the innovation and research that is being carried out in the adoption of innovative vehicles and EVs. So the if you look at the PM drive vehicles, this also tries to provide support to the to two-wheelers and three-wheelers and ambulance trucks, buses that are being running through the EV. It also tries to provide the support to these vehicles, and also to provide the funds are being provided to increase the adoption. And the scheme also envisages to have a huger increase in the adoption of EV vehicles. This scheme also tries to increase the adoption of EV vehicles. And also other schemes are there which are not directly, but still they try to promote the adoption of EV technologies, which includes the national program on advanced chemicals, which tries to develop the battery storage suitable for enhanced adoption of EV technologies, as well as to increase the which increase try to reduce the increase the domestic production, so that the costs are being cut out in an indirect manner. And also there are schemes to promote the manufacturing of passenger cars using EVs, which also the government has been promoting. So if you look at the economic comparison between and the fuel cell electric vehicles and battery operated electric vehicles, the initial cost is very higher for a fuel cell electronic vehicle, and the infrastructure is also limited in case of fuel cell electric vehicles compared to the battery operated electric vehicles. And the cost and the environment is cost is very high. However, on the environmental aspect, both these technologies are good, and they are trying to contribute towards the net zero adoption. So it is highly necessary that we are looking for an integration of FCV. And so this includes also, this integration also has a requirement of higher financial funds are required. So with the limit, so to it is not possible for small cities or small places to have such integrated stations unless and until there are sufficient number of users who are using those technologies. So it is highly necessary that the users must be educated on the awareness of these technologies. So the faster the adoption, the kind of infrastructure that we're having also will be getting spread, since it will be the charging stations will be having a sustainable economy to contribute that. And also the other challenge is the standards and safety. So what kind of standards are there, where there is being, whether it's the safety measures are following, the strong safety measures are there. And also whether the for the FCV, whether the fleets are having strict safety requirements, and whether the regulations are there properly in place for them, whether they are properly followed, and whether safety mechanisms are put in place, are ensure are more secure, and it does not prevent any mishappenings. And that is one of the major concern in the integration of an FCV and a BEV station. So how can we move forward? So the first is the technology for this integration is for the incentives for the adoption. So first thing we can do is the adoption of EVs and FCVs. And the government can start slowly the gradual tightening on fuel economy and tail pipe COT standards. So once the government increases the restrictions on the COT standards, automatically people will start moving towards adoption of EV technologies, as it has almost zero tail pipeline pipe emissions. So that is one of the things which government will be starting to do it slowly. And also it is necessary that we need to have a publicly accessible chargers, and we need to have charging points in all across the buildings. So buildings must also have, for example, if there are flats, if there are apartments are there, they need to have a common charging point, which will and also in public places, we need to have development of such infrastructure. So such infrastructure will help the faster adoption, and also it will help them to have better option. And other technology which we can adopt is declaring certain zones as low and zero emission zones. So if that will also help them, because if in that particular zone we can only EVs can be allowed, in such a cases there is another indirect way where we can push for the adoption of EV vehicles. And also the main thing is on the product innovation. We need to have innovative models, and also development of expertise. Another major challenge which is observed as a global phenomenon is the lack of manpower to repair these vehicles. So people try to adopt to these vehicles, but the expertise, for example, if there is any issue in any of the internal components of these vehicles, experts, there is a lack of manpower who can resolve the issue. So in most cases, with the lack of skilled expertise, they are just going for replacing the components, and it increases the cost of the users. So the users are forced to pay a large amount of maintenance charges. So this is also one of the factors we need to increase. We need to increase the expertise of skilled manpower who are expert in designing the desires vehicles, as well as who are experts in repairing these vehicles. So that expertise also needs to be developed. And also we need to push for policies which phase out the internal combustion engine sales. So we need to have some certain set some targets. And also the loans which are provided for them must be can be provided as zero interest loans. And also we can have incentives proportional to the reduction. So depending upon the CO2 emission of each vehicle, the incentives can also be provided. So this is, as I said earlier, we need to phase out the use of IC vehicles. So globally, countries are pushing towards adoption of modern transportation, and they're trying to push towards 100% electrified sales. So already Norway has, by this year, they'll be achieving the 100% of electrified sales, and they'll be trying towards achieving the zero pledge edge by 2050. So each country is pushing towards that. They want to have 100% EV vehicles by every year, and each country has envisaged to have such kind of adoption. So we may also try to push for such kind of initiatives where we'll be able to phase out and remove all the combustion engine vehicles, and we can have 100% electric vehicle adoption. However, this is a more challenging task in a country like India, where the adoption is at a very slower pace. And also to phase out them, we need to have a mechanism to phase out that. So we need to work on that. Slowly, we'll be coming up with the mechanism to phase out the combustion engine vehicles at a faster pace. And if you compare the globally things, India is also on par with other countries where we provide incentives, we provide regulations on charges, incentives to charges, and also we are having mechanisms to regulate the vehicles. So we are also on par with the global countries on developing the standards as well as providing the incentives. And if you want to integrate the FCVs into fit operation, the first thing we can do at a policy level is we can start that integration with the best route. So we can start where the EV vehicles are adopted large. It can be started at the especially at the urban areas, and slowly it can be moved towards the rural areas, where we can try to give preference where instead of if they're having four fleets, one fleet can be dedicated for FCVs, and it can be, and slowly we can integrate the such kind of infrastructure, and towards others infrastructure where we can push towards the charging stations having an integrated structure where FCV charging is also there, and other types of EV charging is also there towards an integrated EV charging stations. And also we need to have make an infrastructure which is investment on on-site hydrogen fueling to ensure that there is a efficient refueling during the downtime. And also we need to create preventive maintenance schedules for suitable for the FCV technology. That is also one of the key. We need to have the policies in place. We also need to have the technologies into place and guidelines, standards, so that compliance to such standards will ensure that the FCV vehicles also meets that, and there is the safety of the people as well as the users are maintained are ensured, as well as we can it needs to be a pilot initiative, and where a small fraction of fleet where we can see what is the viability, what kind of data we have, we can assess that performance of that, and in a gradual phased manner this can be adopted. And also coming to this, the other thing which I want to highlight here is the importance of cyber security in this integration. So it's not just about the economy, technology, as well as what the finances involved in that. It also requires the inclusion of cyber security in this integration. So as of now, if you look at it, the The standard which is being followed here is AIS 157 standard, which is on the safety and procedural requirements for compressed greenhouse gaseous hydrogen FC vehicles. That is a standard which is being adopted by India. So, in addition to that, if you look at the if it is an integrated charging station, there are different communication that are happening in the charging station, and this charging station, it involves the internal communication between the components of the station. It includes the storage tanks, dispensers, compressors, safety sensors. All these are there, which are very crucial for monitoring and control. And also there are different communications is taking place with the control systems, which enable the real-time monitoring of the fuel level, and for the different the sensor which are performing the control operation, while the remote access are done in such industrial control systems which are used to monitor the performance and address faults in a certain location. And also if you look at the charging stations, even now we are having the charging stations which are accepting digital payments. This for this station also, we need to have the consumer interaction, where the modern sophisticated stations used to have apps which will be filling the initiation and in an automated manner if you are going for fueling. So this will also be another key issue where cybersecurity will become a major issue, where they need to have the secure access controls and encryptions are there to prevent unauthorized access and cyber threats. So this is not just a futuristic threat. These threats are already real, and we are having so many issues in the EV stations, where the EV stations are all the EV stations are increasingly interconnected, and it allows and most of these EV stations are remotely monitored, and the billing, who is the user, all these details are collected, and all the softwares are being monitored in a remote manner. So these increases, these all these features are introduced to have a better user experience for the users, but still they also create a potential entry points for the cyber attacks. So because a compromised charging station can be used to disrupt not only the charging services, but also they pose a serious risk to the electrical grid if they are integrated into the smart grid networks, and also they create a damage to the reputation of the system. It reduces the trust on the technology. So the cyber security also must be considered to be a serious one in the inclusion of the policies of this. So these are some of the recent news inside in the media, which are very recent, where you can see that there are EV charger stations are filled with cyber security vulnerabilities, because all these are software based. A simple software vulnerability can be exploited by a threat actor, and the threat actor could be exploiting that vulnerability, and he can get into that charging station. And you might know that if a charging station is being compromised, if the charging it can make them to show without for example, if a user is charging his car, it shows 100% full, but it will not be charged. In that case, the user might be paying the amount, but it will not be charging. So this can create chaos in the charging. In other cases, if the even after getting fully charged, it will keep on charging. There are possibilities that there could be accidents which can damage the cars, as well as it can damage the charging stations. So these things are very serious threats. So and also it is not that these things are required to the attacker needs to visit the site in person. The attackers can sit across any place in the globe, and he can just find out which charging station is vulnerable, and he can easily find out. It is not just inside the country; he can operate from anywhere across the globe. There are mechanisms like websites like Shodan, Census, which try to we can while just giving the proper query with the correct port number. So this is also just I would like to show this here. This is a one of the Shodan query response, where he is where a from a remote people are able to find out this access an in-tank inventory of a gas station pump controller, and they're able to find out what is the status of the gas pump controller, and also they are through that port they're able to find it out. So once they find out what is the version of the software that is running, they can run an exploit, they can get access to the pump station, and once they get access, it is there, they can do any malfunction, and they can create heavy anything. And also this EV chargers also can be hacked, and as I said earlier, this chargers can be used to overcharge. It can be used to prevent sabotage from charging. So these things are very real time serious risks that are there. So if even if you are integrating such where FCV requires high safety standards to be maintained in place, it also requires that cyber security must be an inclusive policy there. So this is some of that examples. This is also another showdown result where you can see like some queries resulting in how much amount of charge is there in that power pack, how much what kind of time operation is there, and it gives a detailed information about that. And if it's compromised, if the attacker is manipulating or changing the data, or if he's changing doing any malicious operation, it can lead into even life harm activities. So and recently you can see like thousands of gas pumps being involved, so where gas pumps were being exposed. How these gas pumps were the threat actors were able to access the entire infrastructure of gas pumps from through remote access. So these they if their vulnerabilities are there, if they are not properly set up, it can lead to serious cyber attacks which can damage the infrastructure, as well as it can damage the trust which people have on this technology. So this is one of the serious threat, and this shows that the policies and whatever is being developed must be a cyber inclusive policy. It must not be just focusing on the technology. It must also focus, it must be cyber security inclusive policies. So that is one of the key concern. And as you might also be knowing that whatever we are towards moving towards connected cars, the smart cars are there. These cars are always connected to the internet. So they are trying to do the vehicle to vehicle communication, vehicle to infrastructure communication, and these communicates with other cars, they communicate with other devices, and they do real time data sharing. So cyber threats targeting these kind of cars are very high, and they poses a serious risk to the personal safety as well as the data safety. So these cars, these stations, they're not just they collect the money, they also for example, if a person is using a card to make a payment, the details of the card is stored there, the details of the user is stored there. Sometimes it could be the mobile phone of the user, for which what is the ID of the user. Sometimes they may be storing the user information, they might be having some charging stations could have user accounts. They can have the personal data of the user. The cars will have the personal data of the user. The connected cars, for example, in given our phones, we used to connect our phones to the cars in the Bluetooth, through Bluetooth or some other way we are connecting. So all the our phone data, there is a possible, if there is a vulnerability in the connected car, it can collect all the data which is there in your phone. It can read the data in your phone. So there is a huge possibility for a risk there. So this is one of the funny memes which I came across. So this is the real possibility is there. So if your car is a smart car, and if you are missing a payment, it is not that you alone have the control on your car. If it is connected to the internet, remote attacker, if there is a vulnerability in your system, the remote attacker can access your car without your permission. So you'll be and this can be a serious threat to life. It not just on the property. It can also be a life changing. It could be life harming incidents can happen if there is a vulnerability in that, and vulnerability is being exploited. So it is not just, it is a futuristic, it's not a vision I'm saying, it's just already there are many threats are there, and there are attackers are always try to hack into the systems. It is not that there's a vulnerability in the car. If there is a vulnerability in the software that is being connected to which is connected towards your car, if that vulnerability can also be exploited, and it can be used to compromise your car. So it requires the entire system, not just the device that is you are using. The entire ecosystem needs to be cyber secure. So we need to have the entire system where the policy for the entire ecosystem of this integration needs to be a cyber security inclusive, and it must be cyber safe and cyber secured, so that the system is safe from any of the cyber attacks. So you can see many cases, recent cases, where you can see there are threats in hacking the connected cars, and threat actors are trying to leak personal information. So all the information of the smart cars will be stored in a database. If that database gets leaked, if it is getting compromised, there's a huge chance that the personal information of the users can get leaked. As well as in some cases, if the website of the service provider is being compromised, there is also another possibility that all the users of that particular service provider might be under serious threat. So there are different best practices they need to follow, like keeping their software updated, keeping their firmware updated. There are different things that needs to be done. All those best practices must be integrated into the system, so that the vehicles are safe, the charging stations are also safe. So we need to have, it's not just about this, as I said earlier, the personal information is there. With the Digital Personal Data Protection Act coming, will be soon be rolled out fully effective. So the DPDP Act of India, which is our India's Data Protection Act. So this Data Act is a very serious act, and the manufacturers and service providers must have strong cybersecurity practices in place to protect against the data localization agreement. So whether the data, whatever the cars are being collected, whatever the stations are collecting, all these data should be stored within the country. It ensures that the data is stored inside the location of India. So this act helps to protect the citizen rights on their personal data. It outlines the rights on the data, principles on the data, and the obligations of data fiduciaries. And also, if there is a data breach, it establishes a strong penalty on the data breach. If data is being leaked, if the charging station has leaked the data, the for not maintaining the proper cybersecurity posture, the charging station will be forced to pay the penalty. So these penalties are huge, and once they are paying such a huge penalty, running the business will become difficult. So the policies must have these policies. It must be having a cybersecurity policy, and also it must have a proper data retention policy. What kind of data you are collecting, what kind of data you are storing, what kind of how you are protecting the data. All these things must be kept in place to ensure that the data is stored in a safe and secure manner. And also it requires, if you are requires verifiable consent. It's all not related to this one. And the policies must be cyber, as I said earlier, the policies must be cyber inclusive. So most of the policies which are developing are cyber exclusive policy, which are just focusing on the technology aspect. So as I said earlier, again, the policies must be cyber inclusive policies, and it must be ensure that the policies must have the proactive mechanism as well as the reactive mechanism. It must have what kind of protection mechanisms you are having in place to protect the system, protect the infrastructure, protect the cars, protect the vehicles. All those things must be there in place. And also, if there is a reactive, whatever policy you are having in place, still a cyber attack can happen. If an attack happens, whether you are having the policy to respond to that cybersecurity incident, whether you're having the mechanism to respond, what to do when an attack happens, whether you're having the policy to respond to that, that also needs to be there in place. So the cybersecurity measures must be prioritized and must be so it is not that we need you for that you need a collaborative approach. The infrastructure, you need to interact with the different concerned agencies. You need to have a collaborative mechanism. The policy must be having mechanism to collaborate with different stakeholders to ensure that the it is more cyber secure. The policies must also focus on like towards the compliance and whether the maintenance of a stable business infrastructure. So the compliance must be on whether the policies are there in place, and whether you are having a stable business infrastructure, and there is a say the products are safe and secure and tested before deployment. And also whether they are trying to contribute to a safe cyberspace, and whether they are having proper management mechanisms where they are having to protect the data that is being collected, the protect data that is being transmitted. All these things are there. They should have in place. So, and also we are hearing a huge rise in the adoption of AI. So we are seeing a huge rise where AI can be used. The rise in cyber threat is also increasing, where we are saying that the AI could introduce more cyber security attacks. There are two ways we can see AI as a threat, and we can also use AI as a solution to the threat. So we need to have AI to be integrated in all the solutions. So all the uh, things we need to integrate the AI into the solution. So we can have main things on the solutions, whatever you are using can be empowered with AI. So we need to have AI powered, so increase the adoption of AI powered solutions, which can be used to enhance the performance, efficiency, and also it can reduce the uh, because if you are from a cyber security perspective, we need to have a 24/7 monitoring, where the 24/7 monitoring is not possible with the human behavior. So in such cases, deployment of AI powered solutions can be helpful to detect the cyber security threats. It can be used to provide threat intelligence feeds on a real time basis, and also the risk strategy. So AI based risk strategy. So when you're having an infrastructure, when you're having an integrated infrastructure of any, be battery electric vehicle in charging infrastructure, or if it is being an FCV infrastructure or an integrated infrastructure, we need to have an assessment, risk assessment. So the risk we need to perform an vulnerability assessment and penetration test. That audit needs to be carried out. So as per the Indian government guidelines, we need to any infrastructure, they need to carry out the internal cyber security audit for at least once in 6 months, and they need to carry out a third party cybersecurity audit at least once in a year. So these if you are using an AI, you can do an automated vulnerability assessment and penetration audit, so penetration testing, where you can try to find out what are the vulnerabilities there. So what kind of vulnerabilities are there inside infrastructure, how we can remove that vulnerability, so you can develop your strategies, your policies based upon that risks. So we can develop the AI based risk strategies, as well as you can have AI for risk assessment. So it is not that if you are using an VAPT, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, it is not if you are doing it manually, you can do it only once in a time. So again, we cannot repeat it in an automated way. Whereas if you are using an AI solution, you can use it for an automated way. So once you are training that AI model, so that it will be able to understand your infrastructure better, and whatever vulnerabilities are being released, are being found out, it will be helping you to find out the solution for that at a better way, and it will be helping you to provide the real-time feed on what are the vulnerabilities are there, what are the threats are there, and how you can ensure that you are able to protect your infrastructure from different threats. And other thing is AI for compliance. So it is not the possible for us manually to check the complaints. So we do provide cybersecurity auditing organizations provide you the audit report, and you will be providing the will be checking the compliance for the audit reports. Whereas you can also use AI for compliance purposes, where not just on the cybersecurity audit reports, they can also be used to check whether we are complying with the global standards, whether the what are the latest standards are there, whether the standards are being followed, whether there is any deviation from the standards, or whether there is any deviation from the best practices. Those things also can be used by AI. And also AI can be used effectively for monitoring the purposes. So the main behavior is like it can be used for intrusion detection, as well as it can be used for threat detection. All these things, for these purposes, AI can be used as an effective tool. However, whenever we are going for an AI, we should not give entirely into the hands of AI. We need to have a balance between AI and human intervention. So whenever there is a product we are purchasing for a thing, we need to have these infrastructure must have a proper software bill of materials on the infrastructure. They need to have what kind of supply chain is involved in that, whether they are having clarity, whether even if the AI solution is being there, we need to check whether the AI solutions have clear clarity on what kind of software is being used, what kind of model is being used, whether there is any bias in the AI solution, whether the AI service providers are following responsible principles, whether they are following the ethical AI principles guidelines, and whether everything is there, whether they are having the transparency whether they are able to provide you the entire details of the how the AI is making the decisions. So and also when we are making like using AI should not be allowed to make the decision maker. Human beings must be the decision maker. AI can be used only to provide the suggestions and feeds. So the final decision maker has to be the human being. So in that case, there should be a balanced approach in the adoption of AI. So this AI adoption can also will help you to maintain the improve the enhance the cyber resilience. So if you look at the cyber resilience, we see like we look at the three aspects, like we anticipate, withstand, mitigate and evolve. So where we try, we always anticipate that there could be a mishap. So the AI must be used to enhance the to be used to find out whether any mishap is happening, and even if a mishap is happening, how can we mitigate that thing also. For all these purposes, we can integrate AI, and we can leverage the AI for the betterment. So these are the things which I would like to touch on that, and hope these are main things. So I want to have like the policies needs to be for the integration. We need to have policies which are India centric, and the policies needs to be towards the development of indigenous solutions. The policies must be made that it has more resilience, it is towards a sustainable future, and it should be cost effective. And also at the economic perspective, more funds are being ingested. So the adoption of FCEV and EV has more financial challenges. So we need to develop solutions which are reducing the cost, as well as we need to for develop solutions which are cost effective and affordable by all. And also the development of indigenous solution again plays a huge role in the uh, reduction of cost and the economic aspects. So policy economic aspects needs to be so the development of indigenous solutions reduces the imports and reduces the economical requirements, as well as it may enhances our energy independence, and also it enhances the more resilient sustainable development. And also whatever policies we are developing, these policies also needs to be cyber inclusive, so that because these threats are real, and we need to whatever technology we are developing, irrespective of the be it FCV or BEV, all the infrastructure, it's not just the infrastructure, the vehicles, all these things needs to be developed with the secure by design cyber inclusive policy that will be helpful for us to have a resilient and sustainable future. So this is the thing from my end. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take that.
Any questions from participants?
Are there any questions? If you want to put in the chat, also you can put.
Dear participant, please wait for 2 minutes.
इसमें बेसिक टाइप कर रहे
Sir, whether my voice is audible, Marshal sir?
Yes, sir. Now it is audible, sir.
Participants kindly wait. We can start our validity session.